Good evening, everyone. I trust you all well. I'm Hussein Essof. I'm with the Employability Unit at Regent Business School. And we have our guest again for this evening. I say again because Sanaliswe presented a webinar in the first semester. Am I right, Sanaliswe?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. And this is her second webinar that she's running. And for those of you who have joined us for the first time, if you need to catch up on previous webinars, you will find recordings of them on our website. I'm going to give you the details of that. It's on the employability website. I'll give you details of where you can find that a bit later. But yeah, I'm just waiting for another minute. And then we'll get started almost at 6 o'clock to be precise. There's 3 gifts that I want to give out this evening. And I was supposed to have given the first gift out sort of 10 minutes into the session. But I'm going to give it to, is it Mashlatsi? Let me see what is Mashlatsi's full name here. Mashlatsi Emmanuel Moniai. If you can hear me, Mashlatsi, give me a thumbs up or give me a hi in the chat. Mashlatsi, give me a hi or give me a hi in the chats. You've just won a gift or a prize for this evening. I'll explain to you why you won the prize. Come on, is she listening? Mashlatsi, are you listening? Mashlatsi, are you listening? Okay, I got you. Right,
Yes,
there
they
you
just
go.
responded on the
Fantastic,
text.
right. At the end of the session, you will email me and I'll remember who you are and we'll get the gift through to you. Don't worry, it's not a BMW, it's not a 3-story house, nothing like that. It's a nice token from Regent. Okay, it's 6 o'clock according to my clock. There's 2 more gifts to give away. And the gifts are given to those who engage and interact and chatter. And I'm the final judge on who the winner is. But I'm giving the first one because Mashlasi was the first one to give a thumbs up at the beginning of the show. So Liswe, I'll give it to you. It's in your hand. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Hi, everyone. As previously mentioned, my name is Sane. I am the Student Success Associate at Jobbox. So I am the one person that is primarily working with your CVs and your cover letters when you apply for jobs through Jobbox. So today we are going to be talking about crafting your world-class CV and also crafting your world-class cover letter, because those are the 2 most important things when it comes to the first step of your job hunting journey. Now, this session is going to be very informal. If at any point you have any questions, please feel free to just raise your hand, unmute and speak, or just drop your questions on the chat function. Okay. Now, let's quickly just look at the few things that we're going to cover this evening. As mentioned before, the first one is building your world-class CV. The second one is doing your cover letters. And lastly, where to get jobs. I am hearing a bit of background noise. I'm not sure who it's from. So I'm going to kindly ask everyone to please switch off your audio. May we please all switch off our audio? Right, awesome. Right, and lastly, we're going to have our question and answer session. Now, before we get started, we're going to have a little icebreaker. The question is, share in the chat box the weirdest, funniest, or most unexpected job that you have ever had. Okay, I'm going to give everyone 2 minutes to think about it, and then you can just put it in the chat function. Remember, there is no wrong or right answer. Okay, Patricia just shared with us a griller at McDonald's in 1998. Okay, thank you, Patricia, for that. Does anyone else want to share? A fish farmer breeding and selling at the aquarium. Okay. KFC all-rounder, but I used to sit around and do my manager's hair most of the time. Okay. Being a credit controller, having to share vehicles on online platforms, a teller at a bookstore, a crew member for a delivery. I used to work at an internet cafe, and the employer refused to pay us because he said that we eat his food as a payment. Why did you even have food at an internet cafe? That is wild. Admin job at Hillcrest and to take care of a baby monkey. What? I had to be a cleaner just to get started and earn money. What? Oh my goodness, you guys have lived so many lives. Thank you so much for sharing. Now let's go on to our next question. The main thing that we are here for today, which is our CVs. Now I'm going to need every person to please share in the chat how you feel about your CV right now. You're going to answer using the letters A, B, or C. So if you're feeling confident about the current state of your CV, you're just going to comment A. If you're not really confident, but not confident either, you're somewhere in between, then you're going to comment B, that is neutral. And then if you are not confident about your current CV, you're obviously going to comment C. Please be as honest as you can. Again, I'm going to give everyone 2 minutes to share. Okay, I see someone was identifying dead bodies during COVID. That is dark. Oh my goodness. And then someone else was a thrift collector from a microfinance company. I love the diversity when it comes to the jobs that you guys had. I must point that one out. All right, coming back to the question at hand, I see we have a lot of B's and C's. There's an A here in the midst of everything happening, B's and C's. Not very confident, I'm new at this stuff and I'm not sure how to properly do it, then you're at the right place because we are going to teach you exactly how you do it from the horse's mouth. Then we have B's and C's again.
Can you please have a look at Lebo Young Unverified there? That there's a lady changing and he has his camera on.
Who?
Okay, I'll send you the footage after the meeting.
Elemo Hang.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't see them right now. Hussein, can you see them?
Jesus Christ, I can't believe I just saw that.
Personally, Siwe, Nombulelo here this evening. Let me double check that and make sure the camera is off because I think I have the feature of turning people's camera
off. Turning
off.
someone else's
camera
camera off.
Sorry about that,
do.
everyone. Yeah.
I am very sorry about that, everyone. I did not see it because I don't have everyone's screens in front of me. All right, let's go back to the session. Now, let's first talk about why you need to have a killer CV, because we've been talking about the fact that you do need one, but we haven't explained why you actually need one. The first thing that you need to understand about your CV or resume, as many prefer to call it, is that it's the first impression a potential employer gets about you. Now, you send this document to this person before they meet you, before they get to have a conversation with you. They've probably never heard about you before. So this is their first impression of you. How you choose to draft it, the words you choose to put there, the colors that you use, all of it speaks about you as an individual and also as a professional. Second thing that you need to understand is that you must make me want to interview you as a potential employer. Because remember, sending your CV is only but the first step in your job hunting process. Okay? And lastly, you need to ensure that you put yourself in my shoes. Remember, you're not the only applicant. I'm sifting through hundreds of CVs per day. So if you're going to write me a 10-page CV, chances are I'm not even going to open it. So you have to constantly put yourself in my shoes. And outside of the length of the CV, also how you choose to communicate things like your experience, your educational levels, and also your skills. You have to ensure that your CV makes sense to someone who is outside your head. But let's bring all of this down to 5 simple rules that you can follow to ensure that you set your CV apart. Okay. Number 1, as I mentioned before, it's very important that you keep it short. Remember, this is only an introduction of who you are as a professional. So I don't need your whole life story. You can add that in your LinkedIn. You can add that in your cover letter. You can expand on that should I choose to invite you to an interview. So step number 1, keep it short. Secondly, you need to ensure that you format properly. This goes from the type of pictures that you put there. For example, if you have your profile picture there and you dress like me in a hoodie, I will not take you seriously. But then if you have your profile picture there, your hair is back, I can see your face properly, you dress professionally or semi-professionally, then that will set a different impression in my head. Again, when we're looking at your formatting, we're also looking at things like color. You have to be mindful of that as well. We also look at things such as the different fonts that you use, because those are very important. The different fonts that you use, because those are very important, because again, they inform how much dedication and how much time you put into this. The third thing that we're going to look at, and this is one of the most important rules that we need to follow, and that is impact over roles. What do I mean by this? In your CV, there's a section where you focus on your work experience. What many people do there is that they Google the role that they played in a previous company. Let's say you were a receptionist. So you go on Google or ChatGPT and you say receptionist roles and responsibilities, bullet point form, and then you copy and paste that. Now, if you're applying for a job and you giving me your CV to read, chances are I know exactly what a receptionist is supposed to do. So I'm not looking for a regurgitation of the roles that you played, but rather I want to see the impact that you played in the company. For example, you can use quantities when you are explaining what you did. Let's say you were a sales agent. So you can say something along the lines of increase sales by 10% within the first quarter. So now I already see the impact that you had in the company, as opposed to you saying that you sold insurance to people. That makes it very generic and it doesn't make you stand out from every other candidate. Right? Let's go to the fourth aspect that we need to look at, and that is customizing your CV. You customize your CV based on many things. The first one being the company that you're applying to. The second one is the job that you're applying to. For example, I have a lot of experience, so when I am applying for roles, I have to ensure that I cut some of the experiences down to ensure that my CV is not too long. So what I do is I look at the relevance of the experience as compared to the role that I'm applying for, and also as opposed to the company that I am applying to. Because what I'm trying to do is to put my best foot forward, but also not bore the recruiter with my entire resume of my 15 years of experience. Lastly, we often overlook this, reading and proofreading. I hear someone's microphone is unmuted. Do we have a question? All right. It's very important to read and proofread, because then you can ensure that you followed all the first 4 rules. You can look at the things such as your formatting. You can also look at your spelling errors. You can look at inconsistencies when it comes to the years in your experience, or when it comes to the fonts that you used. And also, when you are reading and proofreading, it's important that you get a fresh set of eyes to actually look at your CV. So you're not just doing this on your own. Looking at it by yourself is the first step, but you need to ensure that your CV makes sense to someone who is outside your head. Because at the end of the day, you're not writing the CV for yourself, you're writing the CV for someone else who probably hasn't met you. So they don't have the context of what you are putting into the CV. Now, before we move on, do we have any questions about the 5 rules that you absolutely have to follow when it comes to drafting your CV?
Hi, Sunny.
Hi.
Yes. I just want to ask something or some bit of a clarity in terms of the 5 rules that you've just given us, right? So I just need to ask, are they also linked to ATS? Because now I see a lot of companies, they're using the ATS system in order to check your CV, that is it aligned to the job that you are applying for? Does it meet the ATS standards? So all these 5 rules that you've given us, do they also form part as like a guideline for you to meet the required ATS?
Yes.
Okay.
More particularly rule number 4, which is customizing your CV.
Okay.
For example, here at Dropbox, we don't use the ATS. We rely solely on the human eye. So
Okay.
a CV that you send to Dropbox might be slightly different to a CV that you send, let's say, to a bank that uses the ATS system. So it's very important that when you're doing your research, you try and find out how they sift through your CVs. Is it an HR lady? Is it an ATS system? That also brings us to the format in which you save your CV. For example, we would prefer that you use Word or PDF when you are saving your CV so that it's easier for us to copy and paste information, as opposed to using other softwares where it's impossible to copy and paste. So customization is very, very important.
Important. Thank you so much, Sunny, for that clarity.
You're most welcome. Your question was also very, very good. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, Sunny, we have questions in the chat as well before we move on. Do you want us to answer those now, or should we do those at the end? They might get answered as we move on. What do you think?
I'm going to answer them right now because the next segment is about cover letters.
Okay, sure.
All right. So I'm seeing, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the first one is asking about the different formats that have been seen online. Which one is the most professional to use? Okay. The most professional one to use is to stack the sections one after another as opposed to putting them side by side. Because remember, the person who is reading your CV is sifting through many CVs. So now if I have to read this side and read this side, maybe it's your experience here, your education, I'm looking at your skills, it's confusing. It's difficult to follow a proper order. But when you do it like this, it's easier for me to read. So that's the first step. Secondly, profile picture. You can opt to not have one, or you can opt to have one. If you are having one, try to, you see how I'm showing right now? Try to have it like that and have your face showing as much as possible. Minimalistic makeup if you are going to wear makeup. Also, your profile must show properly. For example, if I take a selfie like this, that's just weird, as opposed to just standing like this and smiling. The third thing that you need to look at when you are focusing on the templates or the format of your CV are the colors as well. And as much as it's very interesting to see a colorful CV, it's annoying. That's the frank language I can use. If it's too colorful, I'm going to focus on the fact that it's orange and purple and yellow, as opposed to the actual information that you are trying to share with me. So if you can, try to keep it to black and white, gray and white, or neutral tones. Okay? That's the best advice I can give you when it comes to formats. And then I see someone asking, what if you don't have these qualifications? For instance, you only had practice. Do you think you can take a chance by applying? Yes, you absolutely can take a chance by applying. I have applied for a job that I didn't qualify for in terms of educational capacity, but because I had the necessary experience and I communicated in a way that spoke to the recruiter, I got the job. So sometimes it's not necessarily the qualification that you have or the experience that you have, it's how you communicate it. So that's why, again, we go back to that rule of customizing your CV. All right. I see someone asked, okay, this question has already been asked, the correct format or template. This order, black and white, gray and white, neutral tones, profile picture if you want to. Do you prefer CVs with pictures or not? Personally, it doesn't matter to me as long as you communicate the information that I need, which is your experience, your location, how to contact you, and also your educational background. If you have those top 4 things and your skills, I'm good to go. But if you do have your picture, make sure it's a proper picture. If your picture is a bit, rather exclude it, because that could disqualify you. Okay? Right, I see. How would you then show your impact if you are not in sales and you work in finance? Let's say you are an accountant or you give advice on investments. You can say you have helped people build, you have helped maybe 100 clients build their profiles within the first 100 days in the company. Or you can say you have increased the profit margins in the company in the last, you have increased them by 15% in the last 2 months. So I can give you a tip there. You can say, say quantify on ChatGPT now. You say quantify this role and use numbers. ChatGPT will help you generate that. And then obviously you humanize that text. You don't copy it and paste it. Right? Someone is asking, is using Canva acceptable? That depends on whether you are applying to a company that uses an ATS system or a human system. But if you do use Canva, please ensure that you don't use the column where they are stacked side by side. Ensure that you use the one where one section is under the other. Thank you so much, Mahlasi. I see you saying that you're enjoying this session. Avela is asking, how can you make your CV stand out if you don't have experience? You're just a college student. Then you find a way to make whatever modules or subjects that you are doing in college stand out. For example, college stand out. Okay, I'm hearing someone's microphone has been unmuted, so I'm hearing my voice. Can we please try to mute that? All right, awesome source. Thank you so much. Yes, to answer your question, Avela, you can make it stand out by taking the modules that you have and explaining them to the recruiter using your CV. You can also put voluntary work that you've done in your past life. You can also take your practical side of your modules that you do. So you don't necessarily have to have been an employee for you to have experience for your CV. We just want to see that you've made use of the theory that you learned in class, or you are at least capable of making use of that theory. Zenobia, I see you have your hand up. Please feel free to unmute and speak.
Hi, Sane. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How do you broach changing your career on your CV if you do not have experience but have qualification and are keen to change careers in sort of maybe later in your career? How would you set that up in your, is it put into your cover letter, or how do you introduce it to the company or the potential company that you would like to change careers and be given that opportunity?
Okay, let me first try and ensure that I understand your question. So what you're saying is that you have qualifications or a qualification in one industry.
Yes.
And now you want to move to a different industry.
Yes.
Okay.
How how do I change my CV or set my CV up so that the interviewer or the recruiter understands that
you're
I'm
moving.
changing careers and the opportunity is available or can be made available
Okay.
without experience? Yeah.
So you don't have do you have experience in the one that you're changing from?
I have experience in the ones that I'm changing from, very good experience.
But no experience in the one that you're
but
changing
nothing
to.
in the one that I'm trying to get into.
Okay, that's where you make use of transferable skills. So
Right.
what you do is you take, let's say, for example, my major was law in varsity, but right now I am in recruitment and career development. So what I did is I found similarities between the two industries, and I found a way to communicate that I want to bridge that gap between the two. Because one way or another, you will find a correlation between two industries. So first, you find a way to take your experience and the skills that you learned there that are inter-industry.
Mhm.
For example, things like communication, being client-facing,
Yes.
administration, your Microsoft Word and things like that. So you take those things and you communicate them. And then you also, when you are writing your little objective, if you are going to include it in your CV, you do clearly communicate that you have experience in industry A, B, C, and D, but you have a keen interest in industry D, E, and F. And then you mention the necessary steps that you've taken to get the experience. But then you would expand further on that on your cover letter. So on your CV, you only give a snippet of it. But in your cover letter, that's where you expand.
Thank you, Sana. That's helpful.
All right, you're most welcome. All right, I am seeing Asavela. That's the last question. I'm going to take on CVs, and then we can open it up again at the end of the session. Avila is asking if I did study at university, passed the course, but didn't get my certificate due to, yes, it's still your qualification, even if you couldn't pay for your academic record and all of that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, because at the end of the day, you did graduate. Sometimes companies do speak to the universities to get confirmation that you actually do have the qualification. So that's a bridge that can be crossed. All right. Now let's quickly check in. With your current CV, what is currently working and what do you need to improve on? Now, this is based on the 5 rules that I mentioned earlier. If there's anyone that would like to raise their hand and mute and speak, please feel free to do so, or else you can just share your comment in the chat function. Again, I'm going to give everyone 2 minutes to think about this. Please be as honest as you possibly can. We're here to exchange knowledge and we're here to learn. What is working? What do you need to work on? Okay, Mahlatsi has the hand up. Please unmute and speak your mind.
Hi again, Sanem. Okay, okay, from what you have shared, which is the 5 steps that we need to pay attention to our CV when we're crafting our CVs, right? So before, I used to have a CV like the old version, the old format, right? So now I was like, let me just try and change my CV, because I feel that what was not working on the old CV that I had, I didn't have a profile, because I think you need to have a bit of a profile about yourself and things that you achieved, which is not in correlation with what you've provided, which is the 5 steps, right? So now I managed to have a profile, right? And on the new CV that I've updated, I have a profile. I also have a cover letter as well, which is the cover letter. It's also covering from what? I'm not sure, is it Zanobia that was talking about it, where you were talking about transferred skills? Were you changing?
Yes, it was Zenobia.
Yes, so that's something that I've included, because there's certain things that I've also learned throughout my working experience as I work for a financial institution, right? So with the current CV, there's a whole lot of changes compared to the previous one, because the current one, it also puts the positions that I've carried within the financial institution throughout the experience, like in an orderly manner. Hi, Sunny. Hi, Sunny. Hi, Sunny. I don't know what's
Sorry,
going on.
guys. I think we might have just lost her. Let me see if I can get her back.
Okay, no problem.
Matlati, could you please continue from where we left off, where you were saying that you have your profile included now, and where you explain that you have transferred industries like Zenobia is trying to?
Yeah. So yes, as I was saying that now, because now you're asking what is working based on what you provided, which is the steps that you've provided, and what is working, what is not working, and what is working. So I'm comparing the two, my previous CV as well as the current CV, right? So based on the list that you provided, which is the 5 step, I can see that on my current CV, they are included, those 5 steps. That's why I'm also mentioning that I also have included a profile which is speaking more in detail about my experience that I have within the financial industry, right? So I can see that it is covering certain steps that you have provided, which is keep it simple, format like a boss, and then the impact overall, which is the quantities that you were talking about as well, and then like the customization of CV as well. So I can see it's there, even though it still need a bit of a trick there, but it's there.
Okay. I'm really glad to hear that. Also, CVs are continually evolving. So it's very important that you always keep an eye out and you see the current trends so that you can quickly adjust your CV to the current market. But I'm very happy to hear that you are adhering to the 5 rules.
Thank
I
you.
see Patricia, you're most welcome. I see Patricia hasn't done a CV in almost a decade. It's never too late though to start. So as long as you follow these rules and also you ensure that you articulate yourself in a way that is concise, but also understandable, you are good to go. Isel is saying that her CV is not working at all, haven't been able to secure an interview since 2021. And she has paid people to redo her CV and still nothing. Okay, so what you can do here is you can take your current CV, look at the information that you want to share, look at the 5 rules and see which rules you are following and what rules you still need to follow. If you do need someone to look at your CV, please feel free to send me your CV. I'll try to get back to you within a week. Not a day. It's not going to happen. But within a week, I can try to get back to you. And then I don't know how to pronounce your name, Mr. or Miss Governor, but you're saying that I would discard CVs with many pages. Yes, I definitely would. An acceptable CV is 2 pages long. 2 pages maximum, or else no one is going to read it. I can assure you of that one. And then Ravini is saying, I drafted my CV by looking at the format of my older sister's CV. After what you've taught us, I now understand, and that format will have to change. I'm very glad to hear that, Ravini. Again, to touch on what I said before, it's very important to keep in touch with the current trends because what worked 10 years ago, what worked 20 years ago is no longer applicable now. For example, back in the day when my sister was still job hunting, they put hobbies on their CVs. Now that is no longer relevant. When my parents were still searching for jobs, they put their ID numbers on their CVs, but now we have the Poppy Act. So you have to always keep up with the times. V says his or hers was too long. So they simplified to relevance, added a profile picture. Take a chance to positions I have no, take chances as much as you can. I am for people taking chances when it comes to applying for positions. And also, sometimes companies advertise for a particular role, whereas internally they're looking for someone to do something else. So you applying for a role that you don't necessarily qualify for may qualify you for another role that has not yet been advertised. So put yourself out there as much as you possibly can. All right. Okay, I think I've answered everyone's question for now. Let us move on. Now we're going to look at cover letters. And 5 rules again, because 5 is the lucky number in this session. 5 rules that you need to follow in order to ensure that you set your cover letter apart from everyone else's. The first one that we need to look at is grabbing attention from the start. Because remember, you are 1 in a million. Unfortunately, in the job hunting market, you are not special until you prove you are special. So how you can do that is through these 2 documents. Make sure that you grab my attention from the start. Now you can do this by having your first sentence not be, "Hi, my name is Sunny. I know your name is Sunny. I read your CV." So try to shy away from doing things like that when you are starting your cover letter. Write something that will make me want to read the rest of the paragraph. And then from that paragraph, I want to read the next one and the next one and the next one. Second thing that you need to ensure that you do is to tailor your cover letter to the job. For example, I mentioned that my major was law. When I was applying to Dropbox, yes, I did make mention of that, but I ensured that I took my skills and my experience and I made them speak to the role that I was applying to, as compared to me telling them that I did constitutional law. Because constitutional law has nothing to do with the job that I was applying for. So again, tailor it to the job. So the cover letter that you use to apply for a job in sales at Dropbox is going to be different to the cover letter that you use to apply for a job in sales at Microsoft. Because one, those are 2 different companies with different values, with different cultures as well. So it's very important that you do your research on the company and on the job so that you can tailor your cover letter to the job. Now, this is where Zenobia's issue comes in, where you are transferring from one industry to another. This would be the perfect time to communicate that. So you start off by telling us about the current experience that you have, the qualifications that you have, and how you can transfer that from one industry to another, and what you're willing to do to ensure that you fill the gaps that you have, seeing that you don't have the necessary experience in the industry that you're trying to bridge to. So I like to call the cover letter the meat to the skeleton, because the CV is the skeleton and then the cover letter is the meat. So you don't repeat what is in the cover letter, what is in the CV, but rather you add to it. Third thing, it's very important that you use specific examples. For example, Dropbox is a tech startup. So if I am applying to a company like Microsoft or Facebook, those are also tech companies. So if I say I worked for a startup in South Africa, that's very generic and it doesn't make me stand out. But then if I say I worked for a tech startup in South Africa that worked with youth from the entire country, that's a completely different story. So you have to be very, very specific. Again, quantify your experience, because again, you're trying to make yourself stand out. So you are tooting your own horn the entire time. It's very important that you understand that. The fourth thing that you need to do to your cover letter, apply lipstick and kiss it before you submit it. I'm joking. You're keeping it short and simple. You don't have to use jargon just because you're applying to a specific company. For example, if you're applying to a bank, you don't have to use finance or accounting jargon just because you're applying to a bank, because you will find that it's unnecessary. And also, the person who's going to be reading your CV might be someone who is not necessarily experienced in that field. So it's very important that, your cover letter, it's very important that you ensure that whoever is reading your cover letter understands it, regardless of whether they have the same educational background as you, regardless of whether they have the same linguistic background as you as well. Because again, if you use a lot of bombastic words, you may confuse the reader. So in as much as you are tooting your own horn, Make sure that it is in an understandable manner. Lastly, do not copy and paste. Because remember, we said that you are tailoring it to the job. So if you use the same cover letter that you used to apply for a marketing role here at Jobbox, and then you take that cover letter and you apply for a role in customer success, the same person, me, will be reading those two cover letters. And I will disqualify you because why are you being lazy? 1. 2, why are you not proofreading your work? Why are you not customizing it based on what you are applying for? And also, why are you not showing me different sides of you as a young professional? It's very important that you are able to show different sides of you as a young professional. I'm going to keep referring back to Zenobia because a lot of people are stuck at that point where you are like, I do have experience, but it's not necessarily relevant to what I want to do now. So what do? Do I exclude that experience and come off as an inexperienced person? Do I include the experience even though it's irrelevant? That's where the cover letter comes into play. You can expand more on what is in your CV. Before we move any further, do you have any questions or any comments as to how you draft your cover letter? You can raise your hand if you want to, or you can type it in the comment section. If not, you can just give me a thumbs up and then we can move on. Okay. All right, I see everyone is satisfied with this section. Cool beans. Now we're going to have another check-in because I want to make sure that we are all on the same page and I'm not just a radio presenter that you are listening to in the background. Again, we're going to look at your current cover letters that you've written in the period of 2025. What has proven to work? And what do you still need to improve based on the experience that you've had, the feedback that you've had, and also the rules that I said that you need to follow? Feel free to write in the comment section or you can raise your hand. Okay, I see Nokwanela is asking how long the cover letter should be. Preferably a page if you're writing in Arial 11 or Arial 12. Governor, is there a current acceptable CV format that you can share with us here, please? I can share it with Nombulelo or Hussein and then they can forward it to you because I don't have it at my disposal at the moment. It would take years to go through my drive, but I will make sure that I share it with them.
Yeah, you can send it to me, Sunny, afterwards.
Yes, okay, I definitely will. Ravini is asking, is there a minimum for the cover letter? It's the minimum, it's the maximum, a page. Don't make it shorter, don't make it longer. If it's longer, I'm not going to read it. If it's short, I'm going to think you're lazy. Okay, imagine you are writing the cover letter for someone who doesn't like you. So you have to pull out all the stops to impress them. Okay, Governor, I need to add a cover letter. My current CV doesn't have a cover letter. Again, this goes back to understanding the company that you're applying to. For example, I'm going to keep using us Dropbox as an example. We don't necessarily rely on cover letters. What we do is we take your CV and then we ask you to record an introductory video. So if the company accepts cover letters, feel free to send your CV and cover letter. If the company does not explicitly say that they need a cover letter, just send your CV. And on that note, guys, it's very important that when you're sending your CVs to companies, you don't send documents such as your ID without being asked to do so. A lot can happen to your ID, especially when it's certified. Please shy away from doing that unless you are explicitly asked to send it. Right? I don't know how to pronounce your name, Tetwa. How many paragraphs do you need to have on the cover letter? It depends on the length of the paragraphs. You can have 3 or 4 paragraphs. Again, you're not trying to make the paragraph too long. You're not trying to make them too short either. I like to keep my paragraphs to 5 or 6 sentences, again, depending on the number of words I have per sentence. Maybe I can have 10 words per sentence, and I cap it at 15 words per sentence. The easiest way to see if your sentence is too long is to try and read it out loud. If you run out of breath while reading your sentence, it's probably too long. Charmaine has never done a cover letter, but I do understand that companies are asking for it. Keep trying to write your cover letters and give them to people to give you an honest review. You can also put them up on ChatGPT and ask what you need to improve there. But also, again, when you make use of AI, you need to understand that it is not the be-all and end-all. So you can't 100% rely on it, but you can use it to gain some insights. Right? Can I include a signature on my cover letter? I have never done that before. I've never included my signature on my cover letter. All I do is give them words. And then, yes, please remove your ID number. Unless you're applying for a job in a government position where you have to fill in the Z83, and you have to fill in that form, don't give up your ID numbers that easily. Right, I'm not seeing any more questions and I'm not seeing any raised hands. So I'm going to go to the next section. We've talked about how you can apply for jobs using CVs and using your cover letters. Now we're going to spend 2 minutes talking about where you can apply for jobs. Now, this is obviously dependent on whether you want to work from home, you want to work on site, the experience that you have, as well as the qualifications that you have. The first place is obviously LinkedIn. More than 80% of recruiters do use LinkedIn to try and find candidates. Again, when you're using LinkedIn, it's very important that you keep up with the current trends. You also make the necessary connections. You also constantly update your profile. You can look up on TikTok to see how people update their profiles based on industry, based on location, and also based on the kinds of jobs that they're applying for. So it's always important to ensure that you keep your LinkedIn profile on lock. Speaking of LinkedIn, please be mindful of your digital footprint. It may be your personal account on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, but companies do background checks. So it's best to stay away from controversial subjects in public and also hate speech. The second place that you can use to look for job opportunities or volunteering opportunities, which is something that we often overlook, or work integrated opportunities, are your university career portals. This is where Jobbox also posts some of the opportunities that are available, from job opportunities to bursary opportunities. And obviously, Jobbox. You can go on to app.joinjobbox.com/login to create your profile, and you will be updated on jobs that are available. You can also apply for jobs, and you can also subscribe to our Better Yourself Friday emails, where you get access to different tips and tricks to continually better yourself as a young professional. Now, these are some last tips, tricks, and hacks and word of advice that I can give you as young people who are in the job employment market. The first one is that you need to be very clear of your career path. And as much as unemployment is a big problem in the country, it's very important that you make very clear career moves. Don't just take a job for the sake of taking a job. For example, as everyone can see, I love to talk. So for me to take a role that is client facing is very easy. It's something that I enjoy. I don't mind doing it. Now, if you are someone who really feels uncomfortable talking,
I don't know, it's just crazy to see something that I've been working on for so long behind the scenes.
I am hearing
someone's
microphone has been unmuted. Could you please mute yourself? Right, thank you so much. Again, I am not in any way saying that don't step out of your comfort zone, but be mindful of things like your personality traits, be mindful of your experience, and also be mindful of your current qualifications. For example, why am I applying for an IT role when I don't even know how to change a document from Word to PDF? It's very important. Again, upload your CV to multiple job sites. I think someone was asking about applying for jobs that you don't necessarily qualify for. Put yourself out there as much as you possibly can. The worst thing that can happen is them saying no. And that will happen anyways if you don't apply. So you might as well take your chances. Again, I'm going to keep reiterating this. Tailor every application to the role, to the company that you're applying to as well, looking at the values, looking at the goals. It is very, very important because the company is not just applying a number, you're applying someone who will be a part of the company culture, you're applying someone who you are employing, someone who will be the face of the company, an extension of the company. So it's very important that you show the company that you share the same values as them through your CV, through your cover letter, through your video if you're applying through Jobbox. Research companies before applying for jobs. For example, if you want to work for Jobbox, you need to understand that your role will be remote. So if you're someone who likes going into an office, then working for Jobbox might not be ideal for you. If you are someone who likes dressing up and wearing your suits, we wear our hoodies and we work from home. So it might not be the kind of place for you. Okay? Again, make sure that you broaden your options when you're applying for jobs. I'm going to go back to, I forgot her name. It starts with a Z though. Broaden your options when you're applying for roles because you never know when you might want to move from one industry to another. And also it's better to be a multifaceted young professional as opposed to someone who has done the same job for 30 years. Okay. I am going to open the floor for questions and comments right now. I see Ravini has questions in the comment section. After I answer those questions, Fiston, you are more than welcome to unmute and speak. Right, let's see. Would you perhaps know if working from home in the finance field in South Africa is common? I've not really heard of that happening. Mostly people who work in finance move around a lot. So it's not going to the same office. You might be needed in different provinces. So you have to be willing to move around a lot if you want to move up faster in the finance field in South Africa. Then your second question, does your digital footprint include your online activity as a minor? All of it. Whatever you said when you were 13 about Mark Zuckerberg on Facebook, people will find it and judge you for it. So if you can, do a deep dive into whatever you put out there and try to remove it. Obviously, companies are strict in different measures. Some companies might want you to be squeaky clean, and then some companies might want you to just not be overly vulgar on the internet. All right, Fiston, you can go with your question or your comment. After that, we will have Izal.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
My question was, it was more of because we talked about the CV and that's my daughter. Apologies.
No
We talked about
worries.
the CV and we talked about the cover letter. But
Yes.
what about the portfolio? Because like most of my work on LinkedIn, I have a web applications, which is like a small website, I'll call it. It's like a portfolio, which is currently like my digital CV, and I just put it on LinkedIn. I get offers like that. So what would you say about portfolio? Is it something that will, in the long run, replace the CV, or it will always coexist between the CV and portfolio plus cover letter?
It depends on the industry that you're in. For example, if you are in a more tech industry, then your portfolio matters a lot. We will want to see things like your GitHub. But then if you are in a role like mine where you are more customer facing. You don't necessarily have a portfolio of the projects that you've done or the projects that you're in. So then the company that's trying to hire you would most likely focus on your CV. So I would say that they will continue to coexist dependent on the industries.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, you're most welcome. Isal?
Sonny, thank you. Sorry, can I just ask if we can just recap those first 5 points for the CV, please?
I don't want to.
Oh.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Okay. Fine.
Let me quickly go back to
Thank
it.
you.
Just give me a second. No worries at all. All right. So the first one was to keep it short, 2 pages maximum. Okay. And then the second one was your formatting. Ensure that the fonts that you use are in alignment. And also look at little details as well. For example, if you write the name of the company that you worked for in italics in your first job experience, do the same thing for your second, your third, and the last one, so that I can associate italics with the job company name as the person who's skimming through your CV. Also, the colors that you use, the pictures that you use, if you do choose to use a picture. And then if, like Mahlatsi, you want to include a profile, make sure that you don't write your entire life story. Keep it to 2 or 3 sentences so that we can get an idea and we know that we're getting more in the cover letter. The third thing we look at is your impact over roles. So what we mean by this is, instead of writing down the roles of a receptionist or the roles of a customer success associate, we write down the impact that you had in the company. For example, I can say I have ran work readiness workshops for university students across the 26 universities in South Africa. I have increased the company turnover by 50 billion. This is a lie, but it's an example. So you use your numbers when you are writing your impact. Also, make sure that you use action words: increased, helped, assisted. Okay, so action word number when you are explaining your work experience. The fourth thing is to customize your CV based on the role that you're applying for and also based on the company that you're trying to work for. If you're trying to work for a more tech company, then you will make sure that you speak to the values of a tech company. And then lastly is to read and proofread. If you did use AI, make sure you remove things such as the M dashes. If you did ask someone else to write your CV on your behalf, make sure that you read it to ensure that the information that is on your CV is factual, and to also make sure that the information that is on your CV and the information that is on your cover letter do speak to each other. For example, you can't say you have experience being client-facing and you have communication skills, and then in your cover letter you are suddenly shy and you prefer back office roles. So you have to make sure that those two correlate. And those are the 5 rules when it comes to your CV.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, you are most welcome. I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I'm just going to call you Kelly. Kelly, do you have a question or comment? Kelly is going to be our last question for the evening. Please feel free to unmute and speak.
Okay, evening everybody. Okay, so my CV, I feel like my CV is quite long. When you say customize your CV, do I take out everything else that I've done? Because I feel like my CV is too long, but I have been in those positions and I have done the work like that. Like that was really my duties, and so it feels a bit too long now that I'm looking at it with all the experience that I gained over the years. But you say customize, so do I leave out everything else and only for this particular position that I'm applying for, do I tailor it to that position?
You can do one of 2 things, because as you grow as a professional, it's inevitable that you will have a lot of experience and it will not fit into 2 pages. That's something we cannot run away from. So you can do one of 2 things. One, when you are putting in your experience, you, instead of putting six bullets under each row, you put 3 bullets that cover everything that you would have covered in the 6 bullets. That's one way of doing it. The second way of doing it is cutting some of the experiences if they are not relevant. There's also a third way that you can do it, where you mix and match. Obviously, you will give priority over the roles that are relevant, but to also show that you are a dynamic professional, you can add a few things so that the company can see that you are an indisposable professional and they can place you in more than one position in the company. So it can work in your favor to have experience across different streams.
Okay, then. Thank
All
you.
right. You're most welcome. And then Avila is asking, when looking for a job, is it advisable to choose a job or career according to the salary or the roles you will do, or both? This depends on a multitude of things. For example, if you are trying to work to feed your family or to pay off something, then it would be advisable that you look at the salary. But then again, if you're trying to grow as a professional, it would help that you start working at a company where there's actually room for growth. I see Ravini said, I have no further questions. I just wanted to thank you for this session. It was really helpful, especially for a 19-year-old. Now I feel old, with barely any experience. I will be using your tips to create a better CV. I am planning for applying for a part-time job while I continue with my studies. Thank you so much, Ravini, and you're most welcome. Also, everyone, if you don't have any experience, please follow Ravini's example. Apply for part-time roles, apply for remote roles, and also apply for non-paying roles as well, because the experience will help you in the long run. All right, I'm seeing we don't have any further questions. That is it from me. Thank you so much, everyone, for availing yourselves for the session. I will now hand over to Nombulelo Ohusend to give the 2 gifts that are left.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Sane. I think everyone thoroughly enjoyed this detailed and different presentation on writing your CV and cover letter. I think for me, that definitely stood out was that it is different from what we always hear all the time, you know. So guys, I think we can call it an evening. Remember, I did put in the chat for the lovely prize winners. Please email me your location, basically your nearest campus, and then I will arrange how your prize gets to you. Without that, we can call it an evening. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.